Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let me actually, I gotta remember, I got a whole thing for this, so let's do that.
Welcome
Coffee.
to the
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Ignition News, your daily news updates, unfiltered, uncensored news about what is happening in the United States of America. And today is an essential news update. We are on the 1 year anniversary of the inauguration of the 47th president of the United States and America's first Christian nationalist fascist dictator, President Donald Trump. It is a solemn day in America, but today I would like to remind you of one important thing. You have survived 1 year of this fascist dictatorship. You will survive another year of this fascist dictatorship, and we will reclaim this country. After all, no one is free until everyone is free. Today, you have your freedom. Tomorrow may not be the same. Let us get into the news. Obviously, as I said, today marks the 1 year since Donald Trump's second inauguration. 365 days after he put his hand on that Bible and swore to uphold the Constitution, we now know that he, in fact, was derelict in his duties as President of the United States of America. He has failed his oath in nearly every measurable way possibly. But let us start with today's first and most important story. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, is mentally ill. The president, the active serving president, is unfit for office. He is having frequent, rampant mental fits. His cognitive ability is clearly and visibly declining. He is engaging in dangerous actions which put not only the United States at risk, but the people of the United States, our allies, our friends, and the interests of the people that he swore on that day when he put his hand on that Bible, somewhat blasphemously, if I might add. He swore to protect and uphold the Constitution. From the first day, January 20th, 2025, he began to shred the Constitution. But we are still here, and we are still resisting, and we will make sure that this country is a country of actual freedom, not just freedom for the oligarchs and the special interests. Let's get into the top stories. I am not the only one saying this today, by the way. And before you think this is noise just coming from me, well, it's not. Indeed, we have one of the first Congress officials, Congressman Yasemin Ansari, said it publicly yesterday. She said the president of the United States is extremely mentally ill, and it is putting all of our lives at risk. It is time to invoke the 25th Amendment and to remove Trump from office. She's not alone. Ed Markey, Swalwell, Sidney Comliger-Dove, and others. Even Dick Cheney's former cardiologist, Dr. Jonathan Reiner, is now calling for a congressional inquiry into the mental and cognitive abilities of Donald Trump. But you don't need to hear from doctors or physicians or congresspeople. You can see it with your own eyes, hear it with your own ears, and you can read the chaos and damage that is being perpetrated on this country. He is not mentally well. He is not mentally fit for office. As we covered yesterday, he sent the Prime Minister of Norway a message. Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, plus I no longer feel obligated to think purely of peace. Let's break this down. These are not the words of a diplomat. These are the words of a dangerous president. So we're left with a president who is openly threatening to invade Allied territory, Greenland, attacking American citizens on the street, violating their constitutional protections, and as we'll discuss later, enriching himself in almost obscene ways. Moving on. Welcome to Ignition News, everyone. If you are now joining us here on the show, it's great to have you. I'm happy that you're here. Please consider following the show on your favorite platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well. I want to talk about the damage that this is causing to the people, by the way, who thought that they would be best served by this president. In Florida, the president's hardcore Cuban-American base is starting to crack. These are people who gave him 70% in the last election, but his mass deportation policies are hitting them personally, and they are not happy about it. He revoked temporary humanitarian parole for 300,000 Cubans in March. These were people who came here legally under the Biden administration, and now they're facing deportation. Of course, we have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, famously of Cuban descent. Here's what someone said. This is not what we voted for. I have always supported Donald Trump through thick and thin. However, this is unacceptable and humane. Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, also a Trump supporter from Miami, said she's heartbroken about deportations and criticized the administration for arresting people, Cuban-Americans, Cuban immigrants, in immigration courts, especially those with pending asylum cases. And here's what's happening on the ground. ICE is detaining Cubans at routine check-ins. They're revoking work permits, and they're deporting people to third countries because Cuba will not take them back. Cuban-Americans, Cuban immigrants in Miami overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump. And look at what he is doing to them now. Their safety is quite literally at risk. The Trump administration sends one 60-passenger plane to Cuba per month. At that rate, by the way, it would take 700 years to deport the estimated 500,000 Cubans who arrived during the Biden administration. It is not for efficiency. It is not for safety. It is for cruelty. These people went around Florida with their little red hats on, acting like vote for Trump, and look at what's happening now. Their family members are being ripped from their homes. Their family members here legally on asylum are being arrested at immigration court. Well, actions meet consequences. Guess what? He told you he would do this. They told you they would do this. And now they are doing this. As much as I have sympathy, of course, for families being ripped apart, I have to prioritize my sympathy. And I prioritize my sympathy, empathy, and action for people who did not vote to have their families taken from them. But that support is going to be essential for Republicans and anyone seeking the White House in 2028. And Cuban Americans in Florida seem to be cracking the bases fracturing. Hopefully they've learned a lesson, and hopefully they actually vote for policies that actually matter. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. I do want to let you know that the show here is brought to you by a very special podcast by Ignite. I do want to tell you about that, but let's hear from Ignite.
American democracy stands on the line. The only thing protecting millions of people from the whims of the rise of Christian nationalist fascism in this era of our time are the brave men and women willing to stand up and stand in the way. But there's no blueprint, no template, and no guide on how to stand up against this rising waves of authoritarianism. That was until Ignite, Fighting Fascism in the Age, Ignite, Season 2, Episode 1, How to Steal an Election, is out on
Good show.
January 12th, 2026. Catch Season 1 on Spotify now and get ready to take action. Get ready to ignite. Ignite is part of the Rebel Radio Network. For daily news updates, be sure to check out the Ignition podcast, the Ignition News, available on all of your favorite platforms.
Yeah, so the Ignite is our signature podcast. If you are interested in what can I do to fight for my democracy, we have released Ignite. There's 12 episodes in season 1, 4 bonus episodes. Episode 2 of season 2 just came out today. It's all about stealing an election. I don't want to get too far ahead of it. You got to go listen to the episode. It's really, really good. We do have some cool guests coming up on season 2 of Ignite. Let's get on to the next story, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. Please consider following and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Now, we talked about what was happening. I want to talk about what isn't happening. And what's not happening right now is the release of the Epstein files. As you know, in November, Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act with a 427-1 vote in the House and unanimous approval in the Senate. Trump signed it, and the law required the Justice Department to release all unclassified records related to Epstein by December 19th. That deadline has obviously blown past, and now we're a month past that deadline. And what we know is that the DOJ has released 1%, actually less than 1% of total files in the Epstein document. What are they hiding? Well, we're obviously starting to understand what they're hiding as we hear more from people affected and by victims of this incredibly tragic event. But now we have to start asking the question, why is the DOJ? Why are they doing this? They have 400 some lawyers reviewing these files. Apparently, they're all working overtime to release the files. But 1%, less than 1%, there's something deeply corrupt and sickening about what is happening with the release of the Epstein files. But what is clear as day, is that this president can no longer deny that he had close ties to Jeffrey Epstein, his associates, and, as he himself said, many of his friends. Of course, the president famously told Marjorie Taylor Greene that if the Epstein files got released, that it would, quote, hurt people close to him. Well, it's the law. And I know we live in lawless time, by the way, and it feels like there's no accountability for any of this. But it is a congressional law, and this president will not be president forever. And the people protecting him will not be in place forever. Eventually, not only will we see what is in those files, but we will hold the people accountable who are actively currently either covering it up or who are stalling their release. And this is one area, by the way, where I don't think Congress is going to bend to the whim of this president. It's for one simple reason. What is in these files is disgusting. It is horrible. And the people in Congress know that they have to get this information out and they have to distance themselves from the horrible people in these files. And they have to start doing this now because this drip, 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 what's going to happen with the American people is they're going to see what's in these files and they're going to be disgusted. Let me take a brief commentary break from the news today. And I want to tell you something. This is a break from the news. I'm doing commentary now. I truly believe, by the way, that when Americans start seeing what is in these files, when they see what the 1%, the 1% of the 1%, when Americans start to understand how these people are living, not just with the grotesque things that they did to these victims who still deserve justice, but how they are living, the luxury, the way, the style in which they live, compared to how deeply the American people are suffering, I think that not only will there be accountability for some of these people, but I think there will be a fundamental shift in how Americans view their government. We are quite literally suffocating under the weight of this era. And when Americans start to read these files and they see how these millionaires and billionaires are living, and they see how incredibly out of touch they are with reality and how much they have, and Americans start to understand that how much these billionaires have is coming at the expense of our basic human prosperity, I think there's going to be a fundamental revolution in how the American people tolerate what's happening. We are sicker than ever. We are poorer than ever. We have less access and opportunity than ever. The world is closing in on us. They are turning their backs on us. We are more dangerous than we were a year ago. We are infinitely more dangerous than we were 10 years ago. And all of this comes down to one thing that not enough men in this country are comfortable admitting because they have no spines. Their spines are made of jellyfish, jelly, whatever you want to say. That is that unquestionably, the last 12 years of the American experiment has declined dramatically. Dramatically. And it is largely at the feet, the cankles, if you will, of one man, Donald Trump. He has immeasurably made the country and the world a worse place because he is a narcissist, he is dangerous, and as we said in our first story, he is mentally ill. He is cognitively declining. And anyone and everyone who gets around this man, anyone and everyone who votes for him, they have become worse people in the last 12 years. Your fathers, your grandfathers, your grandmothers, these people have been taught cruelty. They have been taught to be terrible people, and they have been taught that there is no consequence to this endless cruelty, to this endless lack of accountability. They have become measurably worse human beings because of it. And they think that they can insult their way into greatness. But all that has happened to them is they have less than they did 10 years ago. They have less than they did a year ago. They've become worse people. They have less friends. They have fewer things. And the world sees them for who they are. But this will not last forever. It won't. And once the American people see, by the way, what's in these files, there will be change. So have some hope. By the way, I'll just close with one little piece of commentary. As a father, as a husband, probably the thing that worries me the most now is the people who still support this president and this administration are unquestionably supporting and covering up for pedophiles. And it makes me kind of sick to think what kind of people still support this man. And it makes me concerned about the safety of not only my family, but your family around them as well. Because after all, if someone is willing to cover up for a pedophile and to excuse for them their behavior, quite frankly, I wouldn't trust my children around them. And I don't think that you should either. Let's move on to the last story. Let's talk about what's happening beneath the White House, quite literally. CNN reported this week that Trump demolished the Presidential Emergency Operations Center in the East Wing renovation. This was the bunker built by the Franklin Roosevelt administration after Pearl Harbor. They, by the way, demolished it without approval from the National Capital Planning Commission, which normally oversees changes to the White House. And we know, of course, that he's building a $400 million ballroom in the East, where the East Wing used to be. But now we have obtained information, and this is breaking news, by the way, that we have a high degree of confidence that all previous suburban structures, or what was beneath the earth, are gone. The only logical conclusion that can be drawn from that, by the way, is that the president is building an emergency bunker. This is no longer on fringe conspiracy. I know you've seen these stories and you thought, well, that seems a little bit wacky, but it's no longer a fringe conspiracy theories. It is an actual fact. They demolished the previous safety features and bunkers, and they are building what some are calling an emergency center capable of withstanding a nuclear blast. Think about that. Think about why that might be happening. I think the question is self-evident. So, the final thing that I will tell you is I was going to cover this story, but we're running out of time. We'll cover it tomorrow, by the way. This president, tying the story together, the president is building his bunker because he does not care about you. He only cares about himself. He only cares about his family. He does not care about your safety. And so every decision that they make is focused on him, maintaining this illusion of strength when we're actually a failing country. Well, I'll talk about this tomorrow on the next show, but when we really break down how much this president, his family, and the people surrounding them have benefited in this first year, how much there is quite literally a raid on the Treasury happening right now. There's a raid on the Treasury, an enormous amount of corruption, an enormous amount of insider trading, an enormous amount of friends and family members of this administration getting personal contracts and personal deals with the government. The president was recently asked, by the way, why he didn't stop doing international business deals in his second term. And he literally said out loud, excuse me, he said, because nobody cares. I'm so sorry. Got a little something in my throat there. He quite literally said, because nobody cares. Well, the consequence of that is that your life is measurably worse. So here we are, 1 year into the president's second term, a president threatening allies, deporting his own supporters, hiding documentation about his relationship with the sex trafficker, killing American citizens through immigration enforcement, and blocking congressional oversight. The question isn't whether this is wrong. Of course it's wrong. The question is what we're going to do about it. The 25th Amendment? Well, that's not going to happen because the president chose a cabinet full of loyalists. Impeachment is off the table with the Republican House, and the courts move too slowly to stop this man. What's left is public pressure, your pressure, organizing, and accountability. The 2026 midterms are just 9 months away. On Ignite, Fighting Fascism in the Age of Its Rise, I am going to teach you how to protect your local elections, not just at the national level, but the dog catcher in your neighborhood. So please consider finding and subscribing to Ignite. It's going to be the most action-packed, specific, action-oriented season of Ignite yet. I'm going to teach you how to take your country back because you have two choices. You can either stay informed and do something, or you can put your head down like an ostrich. I don't know. Is it an ostrich in the sand? Who puts their head in the sand? I don't know. Don't put your head in the sand. Act. So I want to close it out with one last thing tonight, whenever you're listening to this show. It's something that I learned about for episode 2 of Ignite. It's called whisper jokes. I want to teach you today about whisper jokes. In Nazi Germany, in World War II, it became illegal to speak out against the government. In fact, people were publicly executed for doing that. And so there was a concept in Germany that developed called whisper jokes. And what whisper jokes was a form of humor that could be sort of offside humor about the Nazi regime, and it was a form of resistance. I bring this up because as we approach the second year of the Trump administration, I want to be quite clear with you. Your rights are going to continue to be eroded. Your freedom of speech is going to continue to be eroded. Your freedom of movement is going to be eroded. All of the essential freedoms that you have are going to be eroded. They are preventing lawyers from speaking to American citizens arrested for protesting in Minneapolis. Those people cannot get to their lawyers. Your rights are under assault, and it is going to get worse. But even in Nazi Germany, in the 40s, the 30s and 40s, when it became illegal to speak out against the government, they started to find ways to do just that. Whisper jokes. Jokes you would quietly whisper in the hallway to your friend about the absurdity of the dictator, about the government. And people were still arrested and executed for those, even the whisper jokes. But my point is, resistance comes in all forms, in all sizes, whether it is a loud protest, whether it is refusing to move, or whether it is the quiet whisper in the hallway. Resistance is simply taking action when everyone else is afraid to take action at all. And if courageous Germans could whisper a joke about their dangerous dictator, knowing that that joke may get them murdered, executed publicly, well, then you can do more than you are doing now. That's Ignition News today, everybody. It's January 20th, 2026. You have survived this first year. You will survive this next year. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Great show. Welcome to the Ignition News, your unfiltered, uncensored source for the actual truth in what is happening in the United States of America and around the world. We are not bought by the billionaires. We are here to be your source of truth in a time where truth matters more than it ever has. Be sure to follow along with your favorite platform on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Substack. Let's get busy with the truth. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's ignite.